So clearly this is not my garden, but for this week it is. I'm in heaven right now. I'm actually in California this week. We're visiting some family and I'm actually going to be helping her with her garden today. But I've already been here for a few days and I'm shook. The plants here are just amazing. All of these succulents she propagated and planted herself. And let me just show you because they're so beautiful. Look at these monsters. Look at that. It's enormous. I mean, I can't get enough. We've got agave. So I'm helping Chevenee today, and clearly she doesn't need any help with her succulent garden, but we are installing a full vegetable garden for her in her raised beds that she already has. And we want to make it really low maintenance, so I think even if this climate is very different than what you're used to seeing from me, there will still be a lot of really good info to be had. There's so many beautiful jade plants. Let me try to zoom in on one for you. Look at this gorgeous jade. I'm just in awe. We're just outside of San Francisco, so this is actually Mount Tam. And if we go down these stairs here, we'll get into the vegetable garden. We have 4 beds. They're actually pretty huge. This one's about 16 feet, 18 feet, 22 feet, and that one's about 8 feet. And this, believe it or not, is a celery plant. I've actually never tried to even grow celery, but this one is just growing wild outside the edge of the bed, and it's so huge. She has a few things that are still in this one, mainly just some strawberry plants, which I think we're gonna move because let me explain the lighting situation. Okay, so the sun rises over here and goes all the way across the sky over here. And we've got kind of this screen of trees here, including these and these. That means that this is really the only time of the day that all of the beds are in full sun. Of course, this one right here obviously gets the most amount of sun throughout the whole day, and it gets this heat reflecting off of the retaining wall that I'm standing on right now. So we're gonna wanna put all of our heat-loving crops in this bed, which is why things like these strawberries really need to move. I've already poked around. The soil's in pretty good shape. Obviously, she's already planted a number of things here throughout the year, so we just wanna do kind of a spring refresh, amend everything, and then we can get planting. I didn't even know lavender bushes could get this big. This is like a full-sized shrub of lavender. She's got 1 artichoke left in this bed. They haven't been thriving here because unfortunately it's just too shady. Artichokes love sun, but she does have 1 itty baby. Oh, actually 2. I already did their redwoods and it was the most beautiful, life-changing thing I've ever seen. I haven't been up to the West Coast at all before, and I always knew and have always said that as soon as I did, I wouldn't want to come back. And that's 100% been the case, not only because there's just so much beautiful plant life all around me. And the citrus trees, I'm gonna have to show you, they have multiple citrus trees I've gotten to pick off of. But even more importantly, I would say, is that I've walked probably over 20 miles in the last few days just going on adventures, and my arthritis hasn't bothered me at all. And back at home, when I try to do a 1-mile walk through the woods, my knee is creaking, it's aching, I am in pain. So the fact that I am just not in pain here, it's got me questioning everything. I feel like I need to move. I don't even know what these are and I'm obsessed. In the front yard, they have an orange tree, a kumquat tree, a lime tree, and a lemon tree. I've wanted to pick a fresh lemon or orange or any kind of citrus off a tree and eat it for the longest time, and it has been everything that I imagined and more. These kumquats are one of the best things I've ever tasted. I just keep saying I don't know how I'm ever supposed to leave. I'm up so early because I still haven't gotten used to the time change, but I don't mind it at all because the air here is just so much fresher and cleaner smelling than the air back home where it's still only 30 degrees outside right now. But since it is so early, I'm probably going to head out to the nursery and just grab a couple last minute things that we need. I got some stuff yesterday, so it'll actually be a really great time to show you what to look for when you're buying nursery starts, because there's certain kind of red flags with these plants that can make the difference between like a healthy, thriving start and one that's not going to do so well. So there's certain things we can look out for that will help them to grow even better. At the nursery, nursery, look for plants with vibrant, consistent green color and avoid plants with yellowing, browning, or wilted leaves. These could be signs of underwatering, nutrient deficiency, or disease. The leaves should be perky and full, not curled, twisted, or misshapen. Stems should be firm and upright, not weak or spindly, and the plant should be well proportioned and bushy, not leggy or stretched out. Healthy new growth at the tips of stems is also a good sign of a healthy plant. Check underneath the plant pot. If roots are circling tightly around the pot's edge, the plant is likely pot-bound and struggling to grow. Healthy roots are white or light brown. Avoid plants with mushy, black, or smelly roots, which could be signs of overwatering or disease. And lastly, avoid flowering plants with wilting flowers or buds. Got some peppers. These are actually orange bell peppers. Tons of marigolds, which we'll probably be able to divide up for pest control. Violas, just because they're pretty and they're edible too. We did some cucumbers, we did some zucchini, broccoli, and a whole bunch of different tomatoes. These dino kale, which actually it's a 6-cell, but there's probably like 20 or 30 plants in here, which is excellent because they eat a lot of that. And it was the same deal with the Swiss chard, so definitely look out for that because these plants can be separated and give you way more than it actually looks like you're getting. And then we did some herbs. We did rosemary, oregano. Did do my plan that I use in my own garden beds, but we went a little bit rogue with the plant shopping, so there's probably some things on here that aren't on the plan and things that are missing, but it's fine. So first we're gonna remove some things, transplant some stuff around, then we'll amend soil, and then we'll actually get these plant babies planted. One thing I feel like people don't realize is like how resilient plants are. Like you can really just rip the roots out like that and they're usually fine. I like to say I went from like, you know when you're a kid and you rearrange your room all the time? I went from that to just rearranging my plants all the time. Always moving things around. So you know how you wanted to buy more strawberry plants?
Yeah.
And I was like, don't get too many.
Yeah.
So this looks like just one strawberry plant.
Yeah.
But it's actually multiplying itself. So there's really 2 here. And I'm not seeing a good example of this on yours, but they will throw out runners, which kind of look like these long guys, but this one's dead. And it will reroot itself along the ground if they're happy.
Yeah.
So I think moving them, see this one's just one. If you feel down below, you can kind of feel it has like a crown, they call it, down here. And these ones are fruiting, so it's not like the perfect time of year to be doing this, but they should be okay. So cool. Right?
This is so
So
cool.
you suddenly you have like twice as many strawberry plants as you thought you did. This citrus is so good. So normally I would never grow cucumbers from transplants because if you grow a cucumber from transplant, it can become really bitter and not produce as well. And that's just because their roots are more sensitive. But in this case, the plants are really early on in their developmental cycle, so there's not like a circling of roots down here. It's not root bound. It's gonna be really easy to separate without disturbing the root structure. And from this one plant pot, we actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cucumber plants, which is exactly what we needed. So there's like 3 basil plants in this pot, but once it gets a little bigger, you can actually like snip them off and propagate them in water on your windowsill.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's like endless basil. So if you look at this, are you pulling off like individual leaves?
Yeah.
Instead of pulling off individual leaves as you want them, I need a bigger example. So you see how there's like baby leaves right here?
Yeah.
You would actually cut it right here, like the head, the whole thing.
I see.
And then this one would actually bush out and create 2 entirely new stems, and that's how you get like super bushy basil plants. Hi, Cleo, baby girl. My garden baby.
That was my
So when you're transplanting these types of plants like cucumbers, melons, and squash, you want to pay attention to the direction that this first true leaf faces. So these are our baby leaves, they're really rounded. The true leaf generally has more serrated edges, and I'm companion planting these cucumbers with the artichoke plants so that they can use artichoke plants as a trellis. So we want to make sure that first true leaf is actually pointed toward the plant we want it to trellis off of. There are 41 kale plants in this 6-cell. Oh. Yes. What? There's 41 kale plants here. I was so tired by the time we finished up yesterday. It probably took the 3 of us about 4 hours to get everything planted, but I didn't come back out here and show you what it looked like. So let's do a little garden tour now that everything's planted out. So this is our tomato bed. It does have some geraniums in it still from before. We did cut back this celery. Spring and fall is the best time to cut back celery, and you want to cut it back about 12 inches off of the ground, and this helps to reduce bitterness. So in this bed we have 12 different tomatoes, a bunch of basil, some oregano, and some rosemary. I also direct sowed some zinnia seeds in this bed. And then if we turn this way, this is our happy little artichoke space. Each kind of quarter section of this bed has sort of the same pattern going on. Oh, check out my Manny. I've got spring flowers from a 7-year-old. We've got parsley, marigolds, a pepper plant, cucumber. This is some green onion, some wild asparagus we found, tons of violas, and then I direct sowed beans in here. Totally just repeats, repeats, repeats. Each section has the same kind of thing going on, although there's only 2 pepper plants. We also direct sowed nasturtium seeds into this bed. This bed is a little bit more experimental because of the way it's oriented to the sun. I ended up doing a row of marigolds, a couple strawberry plants in here, and then our squash plants with the true leaf directed so that it can grow up this trellis. But I've also direct sowed a row all along this back edge of snap peas. So the hope is that the snap peas will trellis up here first before the squash gets so big that it will be in the way. So snap peas can be cut off at the base. They'll fix some nitrogen in the soil, and then the squash can come in their place. And then under this mat, I have a row of carrots, and I IKEA sowed carrots throughout the whole bed just to see what would come up. This is our kind of shade-loving brassica bed because it's closest to this tree line and it gets the least amount of light. So I did move all of the strawberries that were over here into this corner. And I think they're going to be way happier here. We did add quite a few more strawberry plants as well as the ones that we were transplanting. This is a whole block of Swiss chard, 2 rows of dino kale, a row of lettuce, broccoli plants here, an extra marigold, and even more lettuce. And for direct sowing, I put radishes in this bed and a bunch of calendula. It's very weird to plant out an entire garden install and know that you're not going to be here to see how it actually grows. And it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but I've already told Chevenee she has to FaceTime me so that I can keep up with everything. So yeah, it was a really fun adventure. I'm really excited with how it turned out, and I can't wait for them to be harvesting tons and tons of food from these beds finally. We did encounter a little bit of a grub problem, so I'm going to give her instructions for beneficial nematodes. I do suspect that's been a lot of why they've had trouble getting high yields out of these beds in the first place. Thankfully, it's a pretty easy fix. All right, friends, that's all from California. I'll be back in Massachusetts soon. Thank you so much for gardening with us, and happy growing.